Hey there, this is Beth, your sweet urban living lady, and I'm excited to welcome you back to our podcast today. I have a very special guest that I am excited to introduce and share with you. This particular guest has been one of my students first, but now I value her as a colleague and especially as a friend. Rebekah Crossgrove is here with me today. Hey, Rebekah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you this morning, Beth?
Doing great.
Thanks for having me today.
I'm so glad you're here, and I can't wait to share your testimony and your journey. But before we do that, I do want to give you a proper introduction so that everyone knows who you are and and how you came about your journey. So, first and foremost, you are a traditional naturopath, and you are a board certified doctor of natural medicine, a certified holistic health professional as well. You're also an author. You wrote the book Doorway to Freedom, which I highly recommend. I've read it. I love it. It's a great book. The title is Doorway to Freedom, Walking Out of Trauma and Abuse into Victory and Healing. Rebekah is the owner of Naturally Blessed Health, which is located in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And this is my favorite part of your little bio. You are a speaker and mentor, but most importantly, you are a wife, a mom, and a grandma. You are passionate about empowering others to live victoriously, spirit, soul, and body through authentic connection, scriptural truth, and healing provided through nature at creation. So again, welcome, Rebekah. I'm really glad to have you here today so that we can just chat about your journey, because your journey in natural health is similar to so many other people who not only are they having physical issues, but there are emotional, traumatic wounds as well. So just tell me a little bit about, what happened, because it was in your childhood, I think, where things began. Yeah. Tell us a little bit.
Essentially, in a nutshell, I was born and my parents were not in a healthy place. They had 3 older kids in high school. And by the time I was 2, I was living with my dad. My mom was across the country, and things just kind of steamrolled from there. And my dad thought that they were done with kids when he got remarried. And well, lo and behold, the court said, nope, here you go. You've got a 3-year-old. And so his life completely changed again. My life was completely changed. And just, there was just a lot of really hard, without going into the details, which some of them are in the book. Yeah. It was just a lot of hard, a lot of trauma, things that I didn't realize were trauma until well into adulthood, when I started actually finding healing. It was like, okay, maybe that wasn't a good thing that I went through. That to me was just life. The hiding, the not having friends, the just being with our dogs. They were my best friends. A lot of tears, a lot of writing, things like that. But then God gave me opportunities to be able to get out of that. And here we are today.
Awesome. So, one of the things that you said as you were sharing is, without going into a lot of details, and I just want to share with our audience, if you are in that place where you're going, I don't necessarily want to read about or visit some of the ugly spots, because for me personally, there are times when it's like, I just can't read something or watch something, or because it does bring up those feelings. And I just want to share that, when I read Doorway to Freedom, that was one of the things I appreciated about you and how you shared is you identified some of the things that you went into or you dealt with without going into the dark, deep, so it's not it shouldn't trigger anyone who's dealing with that. Right. So I felt like that was really good, because for me, there are times when I've read people's books and I hit that, and it's like, even if I haven't gone through the trauma, my emotions my feelings, are out there. And I'm like, I don't want to read that. Oh no. So I really do appreciate that about you. So it started, like we said, this emotional, it wasn't necessarily something, I don't remember if maybe you can share. I don't think you went through like a physical abuse. It was
I
more
did.
just the verbal, mental, emotional, you know, not wanted, not accepted, that kind of thing. And that sounds like it's, oh, well, that's just, you can get over that, but it's not that easy.
Yeah, that
Can
was
you?
the bulk of it. There was some physical in there as well.
Okay.
That, I mean, there were no outward signs of it, but it definitely left inward scars.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I used to be able to go down through the list of all the different types of abuse and say, okay, well, I didn't have this or I didn't have this. But then in the healing journey, once the Lord felt like I was at a place that I could like open up and accept another piece that I hadn't remembered, He
Mm.
would bring it back and he'd be like, oh. But then it was amazing how I would respond to that was so different than I would have responded 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So like he knew what I needed when in this healing journey to just peel back the layers.
Okay, so you're growing up, you're dealing with this. When did your healing journey actually begin? Is there a moment? Is there a moment in time that you can go back to and say, this is where my journey really took a turn?
I think the biggest part of it was, I describe it in the book a little bit more, the moment that I wanted to take my life.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the Lord spoke in. It was the first time I literally heard an audible voice say, I will not let you take your life.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, well, then obviously my plan's not going to work. Then if you're not
Mm-hmm.
going to let me get out this way, you have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just started opening a door for me to get out of the country for a year, and study abroad. And then I could get away with the blessing of my family. And that just began the process.
Yeah.
But then significant healing started taking once I came home and ultimately met my husband and we started dating. And he was just huge in that healing process and still is to this day.
So why do you think he made such an impact? What was it about him and your relationship with him that actually, first you got to leave, so you got to get out from that environment
Mm-hmm.
and be in a more, I guess, see healthy things, breathe freely
Yeah.
kind of thing. And then you come back and now did you already know your husband before you left to study abroad?
I knew who he was, but I wouldn't say that we were friends at
Okay.
that time.
All right. So what's special about him? What happened that made this? Because it's like, oh, I left, I came back, and all of a sudden I started my healing journey. What happened?
I have to say it was a God connection. When we first met after I came back, I had gone to a band picnic where I had been in marching band and he was as well. And of course, coming back, and everybody's like, we want you to come back and join this year. This was my senior year of high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't in a place I could do that. And so I just said, all right, Lord, um, I can't just keep telling people I can't, but I can't put into words my reasons. And I didn't feel like I needed to give them an explanation.
Mm-hmm.
And he just came running across the football field when he saw me and gave me a great big hug.
Wow.
And from there, the rest is history. It was like I felt like we would just spend our dating years then just curled up on the couch and I would cry because for the first time I felt safe
Mm.
and I felt like I was heard
Mm-hmm.
if I could put something to words. And yet he had absolutely zero grid for what I was going through. And so he would just sit there and hold me and pray while I
Mm.
just sat there in his arms and cried
Wow.
for months throughout high school. We did that.
That's kind of amazing because I would think most guys, especially high school, you're thinking they
Yeah.
would probably be like, "Oh my goodness, what have I gotten myself into?" And
I
yet
joke about it with him. I said, did you realize? He said, no, but you're worth it.
oh, love it.
So he's still trying to teach me and get me to believe that, yes, I am worth all that he's been through with me and this whole healing journey and things like that. So,
Yeah. I remember talking with you before, and I remember you using that phrase, I am worth. the healing journey.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to kind of, since you mentioned it again, I would love to just kind of share and talk about that a little bit of being worthy of being healed, being worthy of
Mm-hmm.
feeling better, being worthy. So we're talking about a lot of it with you as emotional, but you also had some physical
Mm-hmm.
health issues during, can you share? Because I think you were, what did you start having the health issues before you got married, or was it
Yeah.
after? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember you telling me about your kids,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, okay, I don't have any energy. And, so
Yep.
tell us a little bit about that. What physical issues were you dealing with at that time?
Well, as a teenager, when I started my cycles is when things started really rearing their head. There was the depression started cycling. I started getting very anemic and having thyroid issues were the big three.
Okay.
And so, of course, I was put on birth control, and that kind of settled things down as a good mask would for a little while.
Mm,
Um, and then did well once we had kids. Life changed, obviously, military, then as parents. And, um, I've had seasons, but looking back, things have gotten worse when I've been under significant stress.
mm-hmm.
And my body hasn't really known, because of all the emotional traumas that have been processing through. Um, I think my body is trying to learn how do I respond to all of this when
Yeah.
life just throws stuff at us. But I've had seasons where, with having young kids dealing with severe migraines, and just having my 2 and 4 year old just say, all right, we're putting in a movie and you're not allowed off the couch because I can't move,
Wow.
without feeling like my head's going to explode.
Wow. Because the migraine was so bad.
Yeah.
I remember you telling me one time y'all would play games like when you were that bad, it was like, and the floor would be lava kind of thing. And it was like, and you made it a game, but at the same time, you were really dealing with things because, migraine headaches plus the anemia. So migraine headaches can be bad enough to have anemia as well. That's a fatigue, you just have no energy, and then to have both and thyroid issues, they kind of they do, because we understand natural health. We know that that none of these are separate issues. So tell me a little bit about your physical health journey. As you said, when did you discover natural health and how to turn things around for yourself? Because you're looking, or someone looked at you as a whole person rather than the migraines over here, the thyroid issues over here, and the anemia over here somewhere else. What happened?
It's actually a long story, but there's a lot of pieces, but it definitely started when we first started really digging into what does God say about healing, and just really starting to take God at his word. We were going through a season where my husband was really having to dig into challenging a lot of the things he had been brought up with, believing, and I really didn't have a whole lot of a scriptural background, so I think it was easier for me. But yeah, when dealing with my own health issues, dealing with the stresses of military, the stresses of early marriage, early parenting, all of that, as well as then seeing some of the physical health issues rearing their head again, because there's definitely been cycles with those. There's some that it's gone really well, I feel great, and then we face another cycle where things are just really, really hard again.
So when you say, let me back up to something that you did say. You said it was easier for you. Was that the faith part of it?
Yeah.
Was it is easier for you to embrace the believing God for healing?
Yes.
Yeah. How did that come about?
Um, we had we had recently moved back to our home state after the military, and getting started. That just connected us with some people and some new friends who were just like, "Hey, um, we've been learning a lot," because they didn't grow up in the church at all, and they were just sharing some of the things that they had been learning and passing that along to us. And so my husband was, but wait a second, this isn't what I learned.
Yeah.
So it really forced him to go back into the word and read the word for what it said, and taking the filters off.
Mm. That's big. A
And
lot of people deal with that.
that was really hard for him.
Hmm.
Um, but it was easier for me to kind of grasp that, oh, okay, that's what it says. Then that's,
Well, that's what it says. So, yeah. So, you were telling me, before you've told me about your son and how he injured his arm somehow. Tell
Mhm.
us that story, how that actually played out.
My youngest son was probably about 2. And then we have 4 boys. And we had all been doing a family movie night or something downstairs. And one of the older boys wanted their water bottle that was up on their bed. Well, they had bunk beds. So, of course, the younger one wants to be a helper and went up. He's like, I'll go get him. Went up, climbed up on the bed. Well, then didn't think about when he was coming down, trying to carry water bottles and using his hands on the ladder to come down, he fell. And when we went upstairs, we saw him obviously at the bottom of the ladder crying, and there was this large bump on his arm. And um, we immediately just started to pray over that. Now, this was a few years after we had started to learn to walk by faith and just trust God. Um, One of the other boys went down and grabbed an ice pack and we kind of went into this natural mode of this is what we're doing. And literally within minutes, when we put the ice on his arm, prayed over it again, just kept declaring the truth of the word. And we moved it, and the whole bump that was there was gone within minutes.
Okay, so you put ice on it and you prayed for his arm, and you told me before that you noticed the bump, and it was a big bump going down considerably in a matter of minutes, and you even thought that it might be broken.
Yeah, the way it looked, the way he was holding it, um, it looked like it was definitely a little bit more than just a bump on the arm. It was a big goose egg, and just completely disappeared. And we took him in and we got X-rays just to be sure. And sure enough, there's no break, there was no evidence of anything there. But this is the same child that earlier in his life, when he would go through high fevers, he would have some of the febrile seizure fevers where they just get to be 104, 105, and then spark seizures, um, or even just some of those high teething fevers. I didn't have a means of being able to easily get him to the doctor at the time. My brain was still very much in that medical world of this is how you treat, but trying to navigate away from that. I was not introduced to natural health at all at that point. So I kind of went from the extreme of the medical world to faith is what I've got. God, I need you to come through. And um, just praying over his fevers and watching these really high fevers just break. And it really reminded me of the story of Peter's mother. Even at that point in my life, I was like, wait, okay, if this is happening, I'm watching this really happen in front of my eyes and navigating through some of that.
So when you started using things naturally, like essential oils and herbs and things like that, it was just because it was a natural part of the journey of faith that led you into this holistic healing. Because we typically think of, natural health, we think of it as being only herbs or essential oils or natural supplements or natural therapies like massage therapy or chiropractic or something like that. But there really is a spiritual component to holistic wellness. And you discovered that first through faith and then by incorporating things naturally into your life.
It was probably shortly after that. Um, so probably 10 years ago, 12 years ago, somewhere in that range. Um, just started realizing we needed to be aware of what was in our home and the chemicals that were there and how that impacted things. Realizing that, oh, we could use essential oils. We could use things like peppermint and lavender, and that could make a huge difference in just some of the simple things in the world of like we were cleaning, we were using peppermint for combing or for teas. Um, it was a gradual process. And a lot of it kind of became, we went through a really difficult financial situation too. And so by default, we couldn't necessarily afford to go buy all the things we used to. So it really had to cut me back. And I had to just simplify a lot of areas in my world. And then with my own journey, things had gotten a little bit better and from a health standpoint, but then stress kind of kicked back in again. And I hadn't been dealing with the migraines quite as bad. The thyroid was now balanced at the same point in time. But that was a shift, kind of backtracking. We had talked about the kids being on the couch because of the migraines. And I had gone and I had gotten an MRI or a CAT scan, I think, about that time. And there was something that was irregular that showed up on it. And it was never followed up on. And I was just too busy and too much in my own stuff to think about following up on it. And I remember being told something about, oh, well, you might have to have brain surgery. And I was just like, whoa, wait a second. There's no way we're going down that road. I have 2 little kids. I can't do that. And again, it was like, okay, God, I need you. And after that point, I wasn't having migraines anymore. I was like, okay, this is kind of crazy. And then life goes on. About 10 years later, going through some more seasons of stress, and the migraines returned. The thyroid starts acting up again. And it was just actually this morning, I was thinking about it as some of the worst seasons. There have been very much revolving around very stressful seasons in my world. And I got into one of the best neurologists in the area and did all the testing with him. And he basically told me, yeah, there is something deformed in your brain. And it's called an AVM, an arterial venal mass or malfunction, something. It's an AVM. And he said, well, we'll have to watch this by doing MRIs every year. We need to make sure. I mean, it was very fear-based, we need to be in this testing cycle all the time for the rest of your life. And he said, but basically what it is the blood vessels in your brain, and it happens to be in that particular side of the brain where the migraines were. And he said, basically they, during development in utero, developed and looked like a bowl of cooked spaghetti. They were all mashed and mixed up and everything else. And so it was very, very difficult to be able to identify what was supposed to be going where. But all the other tests came back fine. But he was just very cautious and very much telling me, like, this is your prognosis. This is what you have to look forward to. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not going to accept that. It was terrifying to think, okay, I have brain surgery in my future. But he actually admitted to me, he said, no, this is just part of the development from fetal alcohol from my mom's health issues when she was pregnant with me. And so I was like, okay, so God, you did this. This is part of my development. So then you're going to use this. So now I can just be thankful that when I get the migraines, my thought process is changing. I can't say I always go this direction. But more now, he's reminding me he didn't cause me to have the issue. The fact that I was not supposed to survive pregnancy. He helped me. He gave me life that I was not supposed to have. So he gave me the life that everybody else said I shouldn't have. So that's what he did. Because he's the God of life. And as I've navigated through that at times, and it's just that reminder of seeing him working in my life, and now where I'm at, being able to help other people, and now with the book and being the rest of my story being out there. But noticing again, then things got better for a while of, okay, wasn't having as severe of migraines, but they might still pop up every now and then. But then about 10 years ago, started to go through a very intense season of loss where I lost several immediate family members in a very short time. And just even this morning, as I was thinking about it, that's probably the trigger why now I'm working through coming out of some of those severe issues again. So it's like, okay, now we're getting to these deeper layers of it's not necessarily just a physical issue that is imbalancing all of the hormones. It's imbalancing cause and creating the pain levels from the headaches, but there's a significant stress component.
Wow. So I love what you're saying, because it's like you actually started your healing journey as a faith journey, and you saw God meet you where you were. And and in some ways it is easier to pray and believe for our children than it is for ourselves. I get that. So tell me, you went from faith to then going, hey, there are things that I might need to clean out of my house. Certain foods I may not be good for me. And so you combined the two. You started out faith, and yet you recognize that sometimes we need natural substances, herbals, things like that to help us. So you got started. In fact, that's kind of where we met, I believe, was in the herbology program. And so that was our, a great connection, because it was like, this is, we've got to take care of our bodies. Our bodies are the temple. And it's like, we do have to take care of them. So you recognize that. And I'm interested how things sped up. What happened then after you're going, okay, I'm taking these classes, and now God's going, okay, let's kick it up a notch. What happened then?
So it was probably 2018 thereabouts. I don't even really remember, 2019 something. And God said, well, now it's time to do medicine my way, because my childhood dream was to go into medicine, to be a pediatrician. And God said, nope, we're putting that on hold to be a wife and a mom. And I'm really glad that he changed my direction. And life has been so much more than I could have imagined, even with the ups and downs. But yeah, he started opening doors for me to do a nutrition course and the herbalism course. And I've been teaching my kids in homeschool that I didn't really want them to have to memorize all the information. They just needed to know where to find it, and to be have a love of lifelong learning. And so I found myself modeling that for them, because I'm doing this class, and then I'm doing these two together, and then I'm doing this one, and I'm looking and learning this. And it was all over the place. But as I just wasn't sure exactly where it was all going to land, what all was happening. And then through some of the assignments for some of the classes, God got me starting to think. He's like, okay, yeah, if you had a business, what would it be called? And I'm like, I have no idea, because I don't even want to own a business. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. And well, he dropped the name Naturally Blessed Health into my spirit. And I was like, okay, I guess that's what it is. And he just started opening up doors, and little piece by little piece. I mean, none of it came quickly. None of it. He didn't give me the full layout of this is all we're doing. So it's been very much over the last 5 years of learning and growing. And 3 years ago, I officially opened Naturally Blessed Health. And have been just really enjoying working with primarily women right now, but just seeing some things change, but working with that spirit, soul, and body connection with people.
So these women that you're helping, and you said you took a variety of classes, and that's the beauty of natural health, traditional naturopathy, and holistic wellness, whatever you want to title it. There are so many different components that can be under that, umbrella, not just herbs, not just homeopathy, not just health coaching, things like that, but you found your place, you found your niche. We can help anyone who needs help in the natural health field. These things work, but we find ourselves through whatever past journey, like what you're saying, the past journey that I lived through and came out of, and the healing I experienced. We tend to then give that gift of here's the healing, here's the help, here's how you can get out. So I'm not saying you're limited.
Not at all.
I said all that to say you're not limited. I get that. But yeah, we don't tend to help everyone. I'm like, because it's like there
It's
just
too
seems to
much.
be a connection. Yeah. So, and it can be too much to try to help everyone. So who is it that you tend to help the most, and how do you help them? And I love the name Naturally Blessed Women, by the way.
Thanks. I tend to work primarily with women, adult women, so in their 20s to even up into the 60s, who are coming to me with either digestive issues or hormone imbalances. Sometimes there's some anxiety, depression levels in there. Like, I just want to be balanced. I just want to feel better. I just want to be able to function better. And so,
Yeah.
a lot of it is that faith-based connection. They realize that I will invite the Lord into every consultation, every client meeting we have. And there's just such a sense of peace in that I love it when I have clients walk into my office in my home and they're like, wow, I've never walked into some place that feels so peaceful. There's something that sets this place apart. And it's not me by any means. It's not me, but it's the other one that's in the room with me all the time. And so it's really special then to have them start to make connections and feel safe to share things with me that they may never have shared with another person. And so just to be that listening ear, just to be that one and being say, okay, maybe there's a connection here. And then as we start to work through and start to release some of the emotions and just realize walking in their identity of who did God make them to be and the truth of what he says, because most of them are believers who come to me as well. And so once they start to learn that, they start to realize, oh, it's a little bit different than I thought. Maybe what physically is going on isn't defining me. So a diagnosis doesn't define them, but now it's, okay, who does God say they are? And then it just shifts. So we do use herbs. I do use supplements. We use RBTI. We use hair analysis. Some of those I've a variety of different modalities that I might use. We do a lot of detox work as well. But yeah, a lot of it is the identity and the spiritual side of things that we work with.
That is so cool. And you know that just kind of lights my little fire, because
that's where you and I get along so well.
That is, yeah. I mean, I am all about identity and design. I mean, that is when, talking to God about who I am, it's like, you are all about design, and it's like, and so when we understand, like you said, this is who God called me, this is how he made me and formed me in my womb, in my mother's womb. And, that there was a reason and a purpose, and it's not to be used by God. It's to live in him and then just share that with other people. Yeah. And so it's like, and when we are fulfilled, it helps us to overcome. That is one of the things that, God has put his finger on me and going, yeah, we need to talk about, because when we know our identity and we know, well, I'm called for a purpose and I've got these things to do, then when those sickness, illness, horrible feelings, trauma, whatever it is, it gives us something to kind of anchor us and pull us forward out of that, going, no, I have a purpose. I have a design. So I'm not going to be defined by these labels.
Right.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah. So that's pretty amazing. So you are working with people more. So it's a physical. So if I come to see you then, and I have physical health issues, I can get help.
We'll address those so that we can help the body to be able to heal on whatever level it needs to. So whether it's getting you feeling better so that you can function better. And then we'll work on some of the deeper issues if we need to, if they're there. They may not be there.
Yeah. So yeah, there may, I mean, it's not like you're going and looking after and poking and going, I must find something.
Not at all. We're not digging to find. We're just looking to see what the Lord reveals and what he highlights.
Yeah.
And to say, okay, so sometimes there is something deeper. There's something emotional connected to what's going on physically. And
how do emotions affect our physical health?
They are very deeply connected. So we think we're a spirit, we're a soul, which is our mind, will, and body, our mind, will, and emotions, and we're a physical body. And I believe that we're the spirit first, just living in a physical body, but we have our emotions, we have our mind, our free will, our choices. And so they can dictate from one to the other. When we get the spirit part, the identity part correct, then the emotions and the soul, the choices fall in line to that. And then the body falls in line to that on the bottom. But so often we flipped it and we say, well, the body is the most important part of all of that. So that's where our focus is. But when the emotions are there and we're not allowing ourselves to process through those, if particularly as moms, busy life, we have a lot going on, we just kind of stuff things down deeper. And then that's where those energies from those emotions start to settle.
So when we stuff them and don't process them properly, which, I mean, face
We
it,
all do
that's
it.
when we're kids.
We all do.
We're told to,
Yep.
quit crying, be quiet, suck it
Yep.
up, whatever it may be. We're, and there's no harm intended most of the time when, we're told that, but it can cause us. We learn to put on masks. We learn to bury our emotions. And, when we do that, that's when the physical, I think that's what you and I have both found is in practice and in our own lives is when we bury it, that's when the physical come, our bodies start talking for us.
They do. And that's what I love telling clients, particularly the first time I sit down with them and I start explaining the fact that God's created these languages within our physical body for us to learn to read, and that it'll communicate with us outside of just a pain signal, but through our face, through our tongue, through whatever else is going on, how we respond to things, the emotions, it's all part of that body's communication to us. And we need to learn how to respond to that, how to read it, but that it's all part of how intricately we've been created by a loving Father that says, I want you to be able to know this. I want you to be able to walk in the healing and the goodness that He has for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you not only help others process the physical, the emotional, but you do it, like you said, we're not here picking at and going, oh, let me dig, but you're going, if your clients are going, hey, I realize there's more to it than just the physical, and they stick with you on the journey of healing, you can help. And it really does start spirit, soul, body. It really does. And yet sometimes we do need to deal with those physical issues.
Sure.
I mean, we've got to deal with them to be comfortable, to be able to get off the sofa. So let's go back to the book that you wrote. Can you share with us, what prompted you to write that book, and how does that fit into your I say business, but it's almost like ministry,
It's both. Well, I knew when I was 16, before I went to Europe, that my life story was going to become a book, but that was back in the middle of the darkness and some of the really struggles. And I didn't know what that was going to look like. I was like, okay, I am not anywhere near ready to really share from a place of victory and healing. Because we don't want to share a lot of our stories publicly when we're in the midst of it. And it's really hard because that's not going to give somebody hope. But sometimes we need to confide in a few people to walk the journey with us. And then about 3 years ago, God connected me with a publishing company. And that was, their heart was to teach people to be able to take a message, a story that God has given you, and be able to put it in a book form and teach you every step of the way. And I was like, okay. So I connected with them, just kind of got their program, whatnot, and just kind of set it aside after I read through it. And again, it was just like, He would drop these little pieces along the journey, and then there would be nothing for months on it. I think He was trying to let those seeds water and germinate for a while before I was going to say, okay. But then it was a place of Him finally saying, now is the time to write, and then learning to write with Him, with that place of peace and that place of victory of saying, okay, this is where I was. This is the darkness. This is the stuff I've been through. But this was the journey to get to where I am now, walking in greater health. Now I'm still overcoming some of those health issues. but in much greater health and a much stronger identity, and being able to say, I know now why I've been created and what my purpose is.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's so incredible. And I love how he's gentle with us, gentle with
Yeah.
you, and yet he goes and just, I share this. You were instrumental in kind of what I call pushing me off the cliff. So he's gentle with you, and then he uses you to go, hey, let's just really get this started, because it's been about a
Yeah.
year since we reconnected. We went to the Barbara O'Neill Health event where I was an invited speaker. You were there as well, and we just got to chat with each other. Got your book then, and I was sharing. I had written a book because I. Not only do I do this, I am a coach for natural wellness practitioners who are trying to get started in their business or get their business growing or whatever. And so one of the things I did is I wrote a book, an ebook, on how to run a virtual consultation, and you got
Yep.
it. And then you, bless your heart, good
I
Southern
followed that
saying,
little nudge from the Holy Spirit that said, here.
you posted on, it's like December, and you made a post in Facebook or something like that about, hey, this is a great book and you need to get it. And I had people start to order the book, and I'm just going, I'm not ready. I was still laying the groundwork. I was doing the thing. And he was like, yeah, but you need to move a little bit faster. So here you go. So So anyway, that's just, a little story of, why I love you so much, Rebekah.
Oh, thanks. I love you too.
But, I love that he does things with us individually, because you know what? It wasn't that I'm not going to say, hey, that just was perfect for me. Whereas what he did with you was perfect for you, letting those little things come in a little bit, letting them germinate and grow. And so you get used to the idea. And how wonderful, because not only did you write the book, but it has been so well accepted. Now tell us what you're doing with the book.
Now I'm actually probably today or tomorrow, I'm going to finish the study guide that goes along with it, because I've had several readers comment to me, reach out to me and say, hey, this is what this book has done for me. Would you consider writing a study guide so we could use it individually or with groups? And so that's been this summer's project, is putting that study guide together. It's originally going to be just as an ebook on my new Naturally Blessed Health website, which we're also in the process of launching the new one. So realizing that takes a process, and all these things we're learning, because my husband and I knew nothing about any of this when we got started. But when God says, okay, it's time to do this, you kind of trust him to show you how. And again, that's one of the things that makes my husband so special, is he's willing to walk beside me and do those things that he knows are not my cup of tea. And he'll figure out how to do some of that for me. But yeah, the study guide's coming out in the next couple of days. Just finalizing that. And even the feedback, I've had a couple of people read through it and they're just like, oh my word, they're really going through it individually, just for their own growth. And they've already read the book once or twice.
Wow. That's amazing. So what I will do, just so that if you're watching this and you're going, I need the book, I need the study guide. If you are a small group leader and go, hey, I need this for my group, we're going to have Rebekah's website and links and all of that in the show notes, so that you can contact her if you want to, see her. Because you do virtual consultations too. Is that correct? Okay. So you see people in person, you do virtual consultations. You've got a book that can help anybody anywhere. You don't have to be in Pennsylvania. So this is awesome. So like I said, I'll have all that in the show notes. So, we've talked about a lot of different things, and what I would like to kind of, as we start to wrap up, is ask you this. If there's just one thing, there are a lot of things that we can recommend that people do to help with their health. But if there's just one thing that you would say, this is to me, one of the most important things, this is what I would recommend first, what would that be?
The first thing that honestly comes to mind is just recognizing that you're not alone. That there are people out there who are willing to walk with you, are willing to help you find out and figure out what it is that you need. There is so much information available online that we can do a lot of research ourselves and start to figure out, okay, well, maybe I need this and maybe I need that. And then we start going down all these different rabbit holes. But to know that you're not alone, that there are people out there that do want to sit down with you and just walk with you, whether that's just going through something physical that you need to heal, whether that's finding the deeper roots to that, whether it's finding and working with the emotional side of things. But we're not meant to live this life alone. And so just knowing that you're not alone, that there are people that want to walk with you, just have the courage to be able to reach out to somebody.
Yeah, that's really good, because I think a lot of times when we are hurting so much, and when I say hurting so much, it could be physically, it could be emotionally. And honestly, being in the natural health field for as long as I have, those who are dealing with trauma or chronic health issues, those complex cases, it's really hard to separate and go, oh, it's just emotional or it's just physical. And a lot of times, I'm going to say our lives change, and we do feel alone. We do feel like no one understands what we're going through. We're in it all by ourselves. There's nobody there with us. And yet, like you just shared, that is something, that's one of those lies that the enemy tries to use to keep us from getting the help that we need, from reaching out, from realizing that, Jesus is right there. It's like Jesus is right there.
Yeah.
And so we really are not alone, because, he doesn't stay, oh, well, I can't go into Beth's house.
Right.
I can't go there.
Right.
She's dealing with all these terrible issues. I can't go where she is. And he's not like that at all. So he actually comes to us. He actually, like the Bible says, he leaves the 99 to go after that one that's hurting, that's lost, that's dealing with things. So I love that you shared that, because there are a lot of great things that we can recommend. I'm getting a lot of great suggestions from my guests, and I love them all, but that is definitely key. So anything else that you want to share? Anything that you're thinking about going, I really need people to know this? What would that be?
I just want to encourage you to know that whatever you're going through right now it's not necessarily the defining factor of where you are, where you're going. It might be where you are in the moment, but it doesn't mean that this is where you're going to be forever. And so there is hope, there is healing, there is a journey ahead, and there's some practical things that we do need to do in that journey. But yeah, just reaching out and just turning to God and just saying, Jesus, I need you. I need your help. I need you to lead me in this journey, to know, why am I even here? What is it? Why am I going through this struggle? But to know that if he overcame and we are now in him, that means that you are an overcomer as well.
All right. That's awesome. That's beautiful. Well, Rebekah, thank you so much for joining me. I have really loved having this conversation with you.
Thanks.
And it is just one of those, I feel such a gentleness when I'm around you. Like, you're a safe place, and that you're very aware of others and very honoring of them, that you're not like, let's expose, let's just dive in. It's like you are very careful and honoring of others and where they are. And one of the things that we kind of emphasized is that it is a journey. Yeah. Healing is a journey. And there are times when, like you said, you prayed and believed, and your son's arm, was not broken. And that's faith. And yet there are other times when we still have to make the right choices. We have to face the truth about the emotions that we're going through. We have to let go of the lies
Yeah.
of named diseases that we've, gotten diagnosis or whatever it is. And that can be a process. So
Yeah.
if you are watching this and you're going, hey, this sounds like, Rebekah is exactly who I think can help me, then you can reach out to her for a consultation. If you're going, hey, I'd love to get that book and the study guide, again, you can get that in the show notes. But I think this has been a really special time,
I think
Rebekah.
so
Thank
too.
you so much for joining
I
me.
appreciate it. It's been a joy for me too.
Thank y'all for watching The Sweet Urban Living or listening to it on the podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, thumbs up, follow, do all of those things. Get the word out there. Help share these so that other people know the message about how there are people out there helping others. And I really appreciate it. If you want to see anything about what I offer, those links will also be in the comments as well. Thank you so much for joining us today.